And thank you to those who are cheering for me as well.
Something strange is happening in Toronto, and it has very little to do with the usual tennis stars. A match involving Alex Eala was attracting so much attention that tournament organizers were suddenly facing a problem most young players would dream of having. There are thousands of people who wanted to watch Alex, and not enough seats. But here's where this story gets really interesting. This wasn't a final. It wasn't even a semifinal. It was an early round match. And yet, more than 10,000 fans packed center court to watch Alex take on Alicia Parks. Then came her next match. Tickets started disappearing again. So what exactly is happening around Alex Eala in Toronto? Is this simply Filipino fans showing their support? Or has Alex reached a point where her presence alone can actually change the demand for a tournament session? Because there is one important detail behind all of this that shows just how quickly Alex's status is changing. And once you understand it, you'll realize this story isn't really about a crowd. It's about a player becoming an attraction. Alex Eala arrived in Toronto at a completely different stage of her career. Just days earlier, she had captured her first WTA singles title in Washington, defeating Jessica Pegula in the final. That victory was already historic, but also created something else, momentum. Alex was no longer arriving at the National Bank Open simply as a promising young player. She was arriving as a champion. And Toronto was the first major tournament where fans could see her after that breakthrough. The reaction was immediate. When Alex stepped on a center court against Alicia Parks, the atmosphere was already different. The National Bank Open itself described the crowd as electric, with Filipino supporters filling the stadium and creating a remarkable atmosphere for the 21-year-old. And then Alex had to actually perform, because a huge crowd is one thing. Winning in front of that crowd is another. Alex started aggressively against Parks. She broke the American's serve twice in the opening set and raced to a 6-1 lead. But Parks wasn't going to disappear. The second set became much more competitive, and Alex's level dipped at exactly the wrong moment. Parks broke her in the 10th game and forced the match into a deciding set. Now, the pressure was completely different. The crowd wanted Alex to win. The opponent had momentum, and one bad stretch could have turned the entire night around. But Alex reset. She broke immediately in the third set and established control again. Parks managed to level at 2-2. That was the last time a match was truly close. Alex won the final 4 games, broke twice more, and closed out the match 6-1, 4-6, 6-2. That result mattered, but the reaction afterward may have mattered just as much. The sold-out crowd erupted, and suddenly, Toronto wasn't simply watching another second-round match. It was watching an event built around Alex Eala. That's the part that deserves attention, because Alex's popularity isn't happening in isolation. Toronto has a massive Filipino community, and for many supporters, watching Alex isn't simply about tennis. It's about seeing someone from the Philippines competing at the highest level. It's about representation. It's about bringing a Philippine flag into a major international stadium and watching a player who represents something much bigger than herself. And Alex clearly feels that connection. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. If this had happened once, you could call it a special occasion. Maybe the Washington title created a temporary spike. Maybe fans simply wanted to celebrate her historic achievement. But the demand continued. Reports from Toronto indicated that tickets for Alex's next singles session were disappearing rapidly, with fewer than 20 remaining early Friday morning. That changes the story, because now we're not talking about one packed night. We're talking about continued demand. And that's exactly what tournaments notice. A player can be talented. A player can be highly ranked. A player can even win major matches. But becoming a genuine ticket attraction is something different. It means fans aren't just interested in the result. They want to physically be there when that player competes. And Alex appears to be moving toward that territory. There's another reason this matters. Alex is still only 21. She hasn't spent a decade building a global fan base. She hasn't collected multiple Grand Slam titles. Her career is still developing. Yet the response in Toronto is already enormous. And the timing couldn't be more important. Her results are finally matching the excitement around her. She defeated IGA Swiatek at Wimbledon. She made a deep Grand Slam run. She won her first WTA title in Washington. And now she's walking into Toronto with fans expecting something from her. That creates a completely different kind of pressure. When thousands of people come to see you, they're not just buying a ticket. They're buying an expectation. They expect the performance. They expect the fight. They expect the moment. And Alex has to learn how to carry that expectation while continuing to improve her tennis. So far, Toronto has shown that she can handle at least one part of it. When Parks pushed her into a deciding set, Alex didn't collapse. She reset, raised her level, and finished the match with 4 straight games. That's important because the crowd can give you energy, but it cannot hit the ball for you. It cannot save break points, and it cannot close out a deciding set. Alex still has to do all of that herself, and that may be the biggest takeaway from Toronto. The crowd is not creating Alex's success. Alex's success is helping create the crowd. That's a major difference. The flags, the noise, and the sold-out atmosphere are the visible part of the story. Underneath, it is a player whose results are creating genuine belief. And now the next question becomes fascinating. What happens if Alex goes deeper? What happens if she reaches the quarterfinals? What happens if she plays a semifinal in front of this audience? Because the demand we're seeing now is happening around early round matches. A deeper run could take everything to another level. And that's why Toronto may eventually be remembered as more than another tournament stop for Alex Eala. It could be one of the moments when the tennis world started realizing that Alex isn't only becoming a better player. She's becoming a draw. She's becoming someone fans actively search for, someone they plan around, someone they spend money to watch, and someone tournaments have to think about when they consider the size and atmosphere of a session. That is a very different stage of a tennis career. The biggest question now isn't whether Toronto loves Alex Eala. The crowd has already answered that. The bigger question is how far this can go. Because if an early round match can create this kind of demand, imagine what happens when Alex Eala starts regularly playing on the biggest stages, against the biggest names, with something truly significant on the line. The tickets may be getting harder to find. The crowds may be getting louder. But Alex's real challenge is just beginning. She now has to prove that the attention surrounding her can grow at the same speed as her tennis. And if she can do that, Toronto may not be the story of Alex Eala's popularity. It may be the beginning of Alex Eala's next level. If you want to follow that next chapter, subscribe to Tennis Hive, because the Alex Eala story is far from over.